Hey everybody, today I wanted to talk about the possibilities of Nintendo franchises getting themselves movies in Hollywood to put up on the big screen. There have been two events as of recently that have brought this back to the attention of everybody's mind, even though technically it's never really left, because let's face it, people have always been wanting Nintendo-related movies. First of all, we've had Hollywood producers encouraging Nintendo to make movies. We've had the CEO of Prime Universal talking about how Nintendo's franchises are more than just games to people and how recognizable they are. And we've also had the co-founder of Vertigo Entertainment talking about how they'd also like to work on Nintendo franchises, such as Zelda, Mario, and Metroid. We've also got actress, I believe wrestler, and avid video gamer Ronda Rousey, who is, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Rousey, Rousey. I'm going with Rousey, who'd like to star as Samus in a movie. And I've seen her. She looks like she has the build to be Samus Aran inside a Metroid movie. So this has kicked off a little more thoughts about Nintendo putting out franchises for their movies, or putting up their franchises into movies. There we go. And video games movies, as of lately, haven't exactly, been good, to put it bluntly. We have the Five Nights at Freddy's movie coming out late this year. I want to say around October, September. So, anything Jake Kaufman seems to touches turns to gold. So we have a bit of hope there. But I'd like to talk about Nintendo and maybe branch out into other franchises I'd like to personally see get onto the big screen. Now, for Nintendo, the biggest issue is that they're a Japanese company and they are extremely traditional. They don't like the idea of things changing, and they don't change much unless it comes over localization, and then we get something like Fire Emblem Fates. But other discussion for another day. Would a Mario movie work? I think so. I don't think it would be much of a platformer. What I'd like to see is a Mario movie based on the RPGs. The RPGs have such a fantastic feel to them in terms of just how they look, in terms of their world, characters that they have. Starlo. What was the box called again? Yeah, I don't remember. Anyways, Starlo, Bowser and his minions, Mario's friends. It's just the world itself is crazy, and Bowser himself would be such an incredible villain for Mario because he's just so funny in the RPGs. A Zelda movie, I think if they went ahead and did a Zelda movie, they would have to keep it. I don't want to see them take a game and make that into the movie, because if anybody here is familiar with MatPat and people watch that, and he's done a video talking about how movie games don't necessarily work, or games turning into movies would necessarily work as well, because then that restricts what makes video games fun. Choice, how you go through them at your own pace, and you achieve something. Not the same for story-driven games, but let's face it, Nintendo games have never exactly been one for story. Now, for lore, on the other hand, it seems that there's so much more they could do with it, and I think movies would be a great way to do them, because Nintendo themselves don't exactly like directly getting into them. So, for Zelda, I'd like to see not a game turned into a movie, but its own legend, the Legend of Zelda, I don't know, movie edition. It would probably be the same, Link versus Ganondorf, but at the very least, we could see a live action Zelda movie, And I think that'd be really cool with magic, the sword fighting, and I'd love to see how they could explain Link shoving like 40 bombs up his ass. That would be something to see. Now, some of the biggest franchises for Nintendo in terms of how well they could do would be some of the ones that they oddly tend to ignore the most. like Metroid, Star Fox, and F-Zero. These are titles that already have stories and lore to them, and they could extend on that, but for some reason, I don't think they do. Not with F-Zero. F-Zero is more just its own story since GX, I believe, for the GameCube. But, you know, Nintendo has the Metroid manga, which I think is canon. I hope it's canon, because I like it, but they have the Metroid manga, which I think would be fantastic for a movie based on that story. I think would be absolutely incredible to show off how Samus and Ridley have like always been enemies, and how Samus got into the Galactic Federation. How does she have the suit? What is her relation with the Chozo? Because the manga does explain all of that, and it does a really good job at showing how everything has been connected for Samus. You know, and also Ronda Rousey. Just, you know, she looks like she could be a good Samus. I'm just saying, just from a cursory glance, it looks like she could be good. Now the issue is the stigma. Would the Nintendo pedigree, do you think, would be enough to jump over the stigma of movie-based games? Because, you know, we already had the Mario Brothers movie, so if Nintendo were to come out and say they had a Mario Bros. Cartoon movie, well, then they'd still have the Mario Brothers cartoon back in the day to say, well, you guys fucked that up too. So, I don't know. Would you? Maybe I would. I'd still be interested to see it at the very least, because, you know, maybe they've learned from their mistakes, and I would love to see another attempt. Now, in terms of other franchises that I'd like to see, another one Nintendo that I would absolutely love to see is Kid Icarus Uprising. The plot for Kid Icarus Uprising is incredible, and the characters are phenomenal, but the best part about the game is the dialogue. And I think that if they could take the Kid Icarus Uprising, those three things about Kid Icarus Uprising, and turn it into a movie, it would be fantastic. And then we could add the Kid Icarus Uprising Hades up in one of the greatest, he's already one of the greatest, if not the greatest renditions of Hades, just, you know, ever in existence. You know, one of my favorites right up there with James Woods' Hades from the Hercules series. And I would just love to see Skyworld, the underworld, the human world, and those flight scenes. You know, How to Train Your Dragon had incredible flight scenes. Just imagine Pit in those, and he's fighting, you know, underworld troops. He's fighting the forces of nature, and, you know, later on Centurions and those weird angelic turrets. Just, ugh. Anyways, yeah, I hated those things. But what about other series? Like, we have the Sonic movie coming out. I think it's already been confirmed for a 2018 official release. And we've had Sonic trailers before, or at least a fan-made movie to show off what Sonic would look like, I think, in the Unreal Engine, and just showed off a bit of a Green Hill Zone with loop-de-loops and all. And, you know, it looked good, but could they make it a plot? Another big thing about the Sonic movie that I absolutely need to know is how much are they going to use Eggman, because a lot of people in the Sonic fan base are even people who aren't in are sick and tired of the Monster of the Week formula that they keep bringing up. You know, they did that with between SA1 all the way up to, I want to say, Unleashed, and then after Unleashed, after Colors, they also brought it back for Generations with a Time Eater, and everybody remembers the Time Eater, right? Right? You remember the Time? You don't remember the Time Eater? Oh, right. He didn't do anything, huh? I wonder why people don't like the Time Eater. Oh well, but I would not want to see something. I would not want to see a Monster of the Week with the movie. I would love to see them use Eggman, especially with the new writing that the Sonic games have been getting ever since Colors. It's just been getting better and better. You know, hey, hate Sonic Boom all you want. The writing is still pretty good for the most part, and the voice acting has also gotten, you know, above par. It's good. It's all pretty good. Nothing to complain about there. Now, in terms of other series that I'd like to see, um, honestly, my repertoire of video game movies isn't exactly the biggest, but the thing is, Nintendo has proven that they can do it. I want to end it with a bit of optimism. Nintendo can do featured films, and my biggest thing I'd like to talk about is, even if they had no dialogue, it's been shown that that can be done. And my two reference points are the Pikmin shorts that Miyamoto helped make. They're on the Wii U, and if you had, you could. I wouldn't recommend looking them up on YouTube. Like, I'd say help support them, because they're pretty funny shorts that you can go back to if you ever have friends around. They're nice little, like, the longest one I think is like 10-15 minutes tops. No, not too long. And you know what? It's enjoyable. Another thing that another reference points that I had, that even in today's day and age of, shooty bang bangs and dialogue heavy movies, that we can also do movies where there is no dialogue. I point to the people who liked Wall-E, if you guys remember Wall-E, but liked the movie, like the first half of the movie, more than anything else. Just the first half of the movie. There was just Wall-E, Eva, and next to no talking. It was just showing them off. If Nintendo could incorporate that kind of charm and like feeling and passion, which I believe they could. If Nintendo had a bigger say in the movies than what the movie companies would probably do, because Nintendo knows about what makes their games special. Now, would it do well in movies? Well, actually, yeah, thinking about it, I don't think Nintendo having a bigger say in the movies would have a better net effect. But again, I use the Pikmin shorts as a reference point, that to a point they do know what they're doing. And with the Legend of Zelda series, and to an extent Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, and to an extent Metroid Other M, I need to do an LP on that game to get everything off my chest about that game. And Nintendo's other franchises where it showed off dialogue and cutscenes and character talking. Star Fox, you know what? I completely forgot to mention Star Fox and F-Zero. Metroid has the benefit of already being inspired by the Aliens franchise. So if at worst they could probably make not necessarily a horror movie, but at least a nice darker tone version of for a Metroid movie. Now with Star Fox, they could make it, a Star Wars, Star Trek type thing, which everybody would already think of, which everybody's already thought of. And I think it would be pretty cool because everybody likes the Star Fox characters, and they'd make a whole bunch of jokes about Slippy. I'd hope they make a whole bunch of jokes about Slippy and how useless he is. At the very least, just keep him on the Great Fox. Just keep him away from the battle so he doesn't end up complaining so much on the set on screen. And as for F-Zero, I'm not too big when it comes to the racing genre of video games or movies, so unfortunately I've got a lot less to say about F-Zero than I do about, Metroid, Mario, Zelda, and Star Fox. Would it work? I think if they put all their efforts into how it looked, story and voice acting, all of that stuff, but how it looked to make every race just look phenomenal. I mean, does anybody here remember Speed Racer? I remember Speed Racer, and I remember enjoying it and thinking, that's F-Zero. I want to see F-Zero in this. I want to see Captain Falcon in this movie. I want to see that kind of style of racing and put it up with F-Zero, where they're all fighting and boosting, and it's like car jitsu, it's car fighting, and I thought that looked fantastic, and I think that Nintendo or at the very least, not Nintendo would, but a F-Zero game would definitely benefit from that. So, I'm pretty sure that's all that I have to say on it. My overall thoughts is, yes, I would love to see video game movies done right. But I'd also like to see the creators having a good say on what they could do. Now, Kojima could do it if, he brought his game, if, he went to a director and started making movies and started basing them off Metal Gear Solid and Silent Hill. I think he could do it. He's pretty big into movies. And Scott Cawthon, I think he could do. I think he's going to do a good job with Five Nights at Freddy's. It's his baby. It's his, and he's having a big say on what's happening. And the Jim Henson Company is putting in their efforts too with the animatronic suits. It's the Jim Henson companies that have made, Freddy, Bonnie, Foxy, Chica, and whatnot. So, but unfortunately, that's all I know about the movie, and if that's what they're going with, full practical effects, I might go see the Five Nights at Freddy's movie after I hear reviews, because, I still don't trust game movies too much. YouTubers can't exactly jump scare at movies like they could the games. Anyways, yeah, that's about all I have to say. Just, I'd like to see it happen, but, just like everything, I just need to see it done well. That's all I need. If you can give me that, I'd love to see more games. Halo, Uncharted, Far Cry series. Just give me good movies. I'm more into video games than I am into movies, but if I have good video games and I have good movie tie-ins with the games, I'll be a happy camper. I'd also lose all my money, but I'll be a happy camper. Anyways, that's about all I got. Thank you for listening, watching whatever I have put up, and have yourself a nice day.